Are you ready to go deep? Welcome to the Whole Being Zone. Discussions on the day-to-day ways we strive to play big and be whole. Welcome to episode 132 of the Whole Being Zone. This is Wendy Reese, and this is a brand new series. It is based on the reaction of mine to the presidential campaign theme of Donald Trump when he said, "Make America Great Again," and the observation of those who embrace that and their definition of great. I continued to reflect upon a poem I heard in 2009 by Langston Hughes. It's called "Let America Be America Again." Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man may be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wealth, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. That's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today, despite the dream. Beaten yet today, oh pioneers. I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet, I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream. In the old world, while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings. In every brick and stone, in every furrow turned, that made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas, in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore, and Poland's plain, and England's grassy lay, and torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today? The millions shot down when we strike? The millions who have nothing for our pay? For all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung? The millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet it must be. The land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. That still of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies. We, the people, must redeem the lands, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again. Whew, that poem gets me every single time. I love it. And it is what drew me to these stories. When I visited Phoenix in January, they popped up just one after another, and they continued to pop up when I returned to the East Coast. And I knew that these stories had to be told because these are the stories of America. It's not just people who are uber successful and making millions and they're healthy and happy and wonderful. These are the people who day to day face a life that is a challenge, and yet there's beauty in it. That is what I see as the human experience. And I think that until we recognize that, and until we recognize that these stories are not just stories, but these are our friends and our neighbors and our fellow countrymen, that what is happening with our country, that the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and there's a whole lot of people in between that just get left out. We're going to continue to elect people who are driven by greed. We're going to continue to hand over our power to people with power. My hope is that as you hear these stories, you are more open and compassionate and empathetic to the fabric of our country. That you will take time to look someone in the eye, to smile, to make them feel welcomed, to lend a hand, to be kind. So we're going to start our first episode with Alba Rodriguez. She was born and raised near Mexico City and moved to the U.S. in 2007. She holds a bachelor's degree in architecture and a dual master's in urban design and landscape architecture. One of her passions is walking around the cities and discovering new places. When she's not in the office designing, she enjoys all kinds of sports and outdoors activities like soccer, hiking, cycling, and running, and has recently taken on violin lessons. We're going to listen to Alba's story today. I'd love to hear what you think. Please share it and leave a rating and review in iTunes. Yay. All right. So welcome, Alba. I am grateful to have this conversation with you, not once, not twice, 3 times.
Third time's a charm.
Yes. So this really started when I was visiting Phoenix a couple of months ago, and you shared your story with me, and it left an imprint on my heart, and I couldn't quit thinking about it. And I knew that it needed to have a broader audience, because while you haven't experienced the level of discrimination that a lot of people do on a daily basis, it struck me that in the way that you shared some of your stories, the judging of just the color of your skin, people miss out on so much. And I know that's not just a one person that's happening to. So I wanted to talk about this, because yours isn't just a discrimination on one level, it's on multiple levels. So
Right.
This is something I want people to really think about and how we show up in our world. So let's start with who you are and a little bit of your background.
Sure. Like you said, my name is Alba, and I was born in Mexico, Toluca to be exact. And that's a smaller, well, it's a really big industrial city, but back in the day, it was just a smaller industrial city to the southwest of Mexico City. And so where most people know, Baja and TJ and all these close to the border cities, or Cancun, that's where the party people go. There's little understanding of what the rest of Mexico looks like, or a lot of people don't even know where Mexico is. And so it's like, oh, but where's Mexico City? I said, well, it's just like way down there. They're like, yeah, I have no idea. Like anything, south of TJ, we don't know where that is. And so it's an interesting educational opportunity for a lot of people.
So what was it like growing up there?
It was just, like any other regular Mexican, very Catholic, very strict family. Especially my mom's family is very, very strict and very Catholic. So we had to abide by those rules. And unlike most of the general thinking that, machismo is a big thing, it's actually grandmothers and mothers that rule family environments in Mexico. So my mom ruled and everyone just followed.
Yeah. So growing up in an industrial city wasn't all that different than probably what many of us are used to growing up in the city here, which is interesting because the way you've described it to me before, it's just like growing up in the suburbs of, Scottsdale, Phoenix, wherever.
Yeah, totally.
But on the same side, there's so much poverty and there's many, many problems throughout the rest of the country. So
correct.
You mentioned that you're Catholic.
No, I was raised Catholic.
Raised Catholic. Sorry. There is a difference in that. Yes.
I have opened up my, what is it? More opportunities.
Gotcha. You've expanded.
I've expanded, yes. I'm an equal opportunity.
Nice.
Spiritual believer.
So growing up that way, you're also gay.
Yes.
And what was that like?
It was tough. It was not so much in the, oh crap, what's wrong with me? God hates me part, which a lot of people have gone through. For me, it was more of, I am different and it's really not clicking with all this information I have been presented with. And so my dad was big on buying us books. So I could get any book with, it didn't matter the subject or the topic or even the language. If I wanted a book, I would get a book. So I got a lot of books on homosexuality and such. And when I came out to my parents, they were pretty mad. They were extremely angry, actually. They put me under what I call house arrest. And so that was probably my last year in high school. And then I decided to stay there for university because my dad worked at the university. So I got a 90% scholarship, it was a good, it was a good idea at the time. And so I was pretty much watched for the next 6 years of my life until I graduated college. I was not allowed to go anywhere with anyone for whatever reason. I used to date a guy who's now gay too. So we would kind of help each other out because they loved him. Of course, he was cute. But it was this trying to balance, doing regular teenager stuff and just trying to accommodate academics and trying to have a life. And, oh my God, I've lost all my friends. I had one friend as I'm going through all this because people was like, oh, well, you're gay now, so I might catch it, so I'm not talking to you.
Oof.
And people are like, well, maybe if you just tried dating men. And my sister went on and talked to people and was like, oh, my friend so-and-so said that you should be with him so you know what it is to be with a real man and then you'll quit being a lesbian. I'm like, wow. Remind me never to tell you anything about my life again. And so it was tough. My parents sent me to the therapist. They thought I could be cured, and they were pretty angry. I think there's this sense of disappointment in their faces. And so it's taken us years to go from, we're not talking about it, this is not what we wanted, to, oh, great, you're in a different country. We don't have to deal with this on a regular basis, so we only have to deal with it when we see you. We can probably do that. And so we avoid the topic. So it's gotten better with the years. It's not where I would like it to be, but now it's tolerable. We can, have conversations and not be all defensive and angry about it.
Yeah. So, how did you go from being in what you call house arrest to being in the United States?
When I was about to graduate, there was an opening or a post within our job search engine from the university, and they were offering 18-month-long internships in the US for a myriad of degrees. And so I had just finished my degree in architecture, and that was one of the openings. And the openings was for a firm in San Francisco. So I applied for the program. I didn't get the one in San Francisco, but I got into an internship in LA. And I paid my fee to get into the program. They got me an internship, and my parents weren't too happy that I was leaving, but I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't stay here. There's really no future for me as an architect in Mexico, a female architect. It's like construction workers in Mexico. You really don't make that much money. The firms or the big firms pay you very little. The regular weekly the hours you work a week in Mexico are at least 48, not 40 like we do here. I mean, we work more, but the standard's 48. There's little benefits, there's little pay, and there's little respect for architecture in general. So when I saw the opportunity, I literally packed 2 bags and my backpack, and I said, sayonara, and I left. And so I came here, I came to LA, I had an internship for 18 months. And then my boss decided that it was worth for me to stay. So we extended my visa into 2 or 3 work visas during my 5-year stay with that company.
All right. And in addition to being an architect, how many languages do you speak?
4. So I speak English and Spanish. And I speak a little bit of French and a little bit of Italian as well.
Okay. And how did you go from LA to Phoenix? And I know you probably drove or flew, so come on.
Oh, come on. But cycling could have been so much fun. So, talking about racism a little bit, and this is one of the things that I've kind of neglected to mention a few times, but at this firm in LA, my boss was what you would call a kind of racist person. Men were not allowed to answer the phone, but women were. Women actually had to do that. Between the other gal and I would have to switch our schedules lunch-wise, so the office would always be covered. So I would always usually go to lunch like at 2, because it was just weird. We switched offices at one point, and I asked if I could bring my bike, and he said, well, maybe you should go talk to your people about it. I'm like, talk to your people? As in who? As in women people? As in gay people? As in like brown people? Like, I'm confused. You're going to have to be a little bit more specific. So the guy that secured the parking lot was Mexican, and that's what he was talking about, that I had to go talk to my people about locking my bike. And I was in charge, of course, of being his assistant. Since I spoke Spanish, I was in charge of the dog walker, the housekeeper, the gardeners, and making those arrangements for him, because they were my people. And so at some point I got tired of that. A lot of things happened around the same time. My now ex-wife decided that she was coming back to Phoenix with or without me. I had started looking into grad school opportunities or options. This thing with that boss was going south really fast, and so I decided to quit my job. I worked at a gym for about 6 months or so while that transition was happening. I got accepted into ASU, and here I am.
Wow. And you did your master's in what?
I actually have 2 masters. One in urban design and a second one in landscape architecture. And I am currently working on getting all my hours for my architecture registration and for my landscape architecture registration.
Nice.
Perfect.
We had to do just a little bit of a reshuffling there so that we could see your beautiful face even better. All right, so I want to take a moment and make you brag on yourself. So you didn't just finish with one master's. You didn't just finish with two masters. You don't speak only one language but four. What award did you win?
While in landscape architecture, there is the Landscape Architecture Foundation, and it's one of the most recognized foundations between the U.S. and Canada. And every year, most universities or accredited universities are allowed to bring either an undergrad or a grad student into this pool of the 100 most brightest minds in landscape architecture. Some schools choose not to nominate anyone because they don't have it. Some universities only nominate one person. So Arizona State nominated only me last year for the award. And then you become one of these, top 100 people in the country that can potentially get this award. So I didn't get that award, but I got the recognition of the university as the Olmsted Scholar for ASU.
That's awesome. You're still in that top 100, which is amazing.
It is. It becomes kind of, when you're talking about like a fraternity or sorority, it's this group of really smart people that talk about important issues. And it's not just landscape architecture, but community, infrastructure, and so forth. It's really cool.
So you're pretty humble, and I know you don't really like talking about yourself in those terms, but I wanted to bring all of that out to really lay the groundwork of what we're talking about in terms of how people treat you and what it's been like since you've moved to Phoenix, because when you moved to Phoenix, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, pretty internationally known at this point for targeting immigrants. Right. And now we're in a post-Trump administration, which I think is important that we start highlighting what that's like to live in this country now.
Right. And, I went from a blue state to a red state, and I never really had any issues while I was living in LA, but, considering that
other than your boss,
is right, other than my boss. But really it was not about, I knew it was out there. There was, of course, the looks every now and then, and yes, my foot didn't get the right way or it would come in late, but I never really experienced racism while I was in LA. When I moved here, those looks are now they became kind of, they would happen more often. I would go with friends to restaurants that they would usually go, and they would get the looks and they would get uncomfortable. And it got to the point that we actually had to go get our food to go because they were uncomfortable. They couldn't understand why we were getting the looks or why the waitress was being not so nice when in other occasions she had been. And so I said, well, you're sitting here in a 99% white restaurant, and I am the only brown person here, including the kitchen people. She's like, oh, that's not right. I'm like, just look around you. She's like, well, that's not right. This makes me really uncomfortable. We should go. I'm like, well, this is kind of what I have to put up with on a regular basis. You kind of just, learn to let it go, and it doesn't really get under your skin. And it would happen, every now and then. Now with the Trump administration, it is politically correct to, give people the look or make inappropriate comments. And so now I find myself being very defensive or going out and really expecting these things to happen. And I don't think that's what America is about, pursue your dreams and live the free and all these things. And yet you get the look because you're brown.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, I'm brown, but you should speak American. I'm like, well, I can't speak American. I actually speak English. Well, when you speak Mexican, I'm like, I don't speak Mexican. I speak Spanish. And by the way, I think my grammar is better than yours. So it's little things that, I'm not just And I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm not one of those immigrants that work in the service areas. I'm actually a professional, and so getting the look or getting looked down on it's not nice. And I just wonder how it makes all these people in the service industry feel when they have to put up with this as well, regardless of their immigration status. I'm more than 5'4" of this brown person, and just like everyone else is. So it shouldn't matter the color of your skin or where you came from when it comes to how we treat people.
Absolutely. So when I was in Phoenix a couple of months ago, you were going through the divorce and you had some changes with your green card, and you hadn't received it when Trump took office.
Correct.
And we had a conversation about that. I'm wondering if you would share what that experience was like.
It was really frightening. When I think of, when I try to rationalize the fact that I'm an educated person, that my immigration status was kind of safe because I had a paper that said, your green card has been approved, you will get it in the mail. But this was back in August, and now it's February, and now there's no green card, and it'll come, but like when? Right. And you start hearing all these stories of people not being able to come into the country, or rates to get immigrants back into their countries. That really scared me. That, with the fact that now it's politically correct to be racially profiled out in the streets and taken all these attacks. So on one side is like, oh my God, am I really safe? I had my papers on me at all times. And just the thought that you can get attacked any minute and you can get deported any minute, that your family can't come and visit because their visas may be taken away. It was scary, and it's completely irrational. And coming from a educated person, it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, no, it doesn't. But when you're trying to just survive without the papers, not knowing what's going to happen, not understanding what really the situation is, it is very scary. And so I can only imagine what people that are undocumented feel.
Yeah.
Because their status is just kind of in limbo. It is scary.
Yeah. So you're working in architecture and landscape architecture now?
Yes, I work for a smaller architecture firm in downtown Phoenix, and we mostly do urban design and architecture. And because hopefully I'll get my landscape architecture registration, we'll be able to do landscape soon. We have subs and consultants that help us out with those portions of the work now, but hopefully we will be able to add landscape architecture to our firm's description soon.
So in working with urban design and planning, have you noticed a change in how people act and react to you since Trump's taken office?
Yes and no. And I think that's highly because I do work with the construction crew. And some of the trades are mostly Hispanic, especially framing and roofing. Electric, plumbing, mechanical are usually mostly white folks, but the rough carpentry is Hispanic. And so women in construction have to be tougher. They have to have a tougher skin. So I think it goes, you're different in many ways. One is I am a woman on a hard hat in a construction site. Two is I look brown, so they're not sure if I speak Spanish or not. So I get mocked by the construction workers on a regular basis, and I am not respected by my counterparts in the consultant world. And so we get to these meetings, and it's mostly big white men, and then there's me. And so it takes a while for them to get used to me, and for me not to feel threatened by these big white men. And so once that happens, and it takes a few meetings and it takes a few exchanges, and my boss is really nice, and he would say, just go at it. Just, you're tough, and they have to do it. You're the boss. And so there's this understanding that the architect has a series of consultants, so we do manage them, and they have to respond to our requests. And then there's a site portion of it where you just have to be tougher. And when you walk outside and they're making fun of you or whatnot, then I make sure they know I speak Spanish, and automatically anyone that's on site will respect me. But you just have to be tougher. And I think this is regardless of my skin color, especially at the construction site, but it is because I'm a woman.
Right. What do you hope to see change? We're 100 days, a little over 100 days into the new administration. What do you hope to see change over the next year?
Well, I think I've seen a tendency of a series of things going on. And one is the creation of community. And if it's, marching for the Women's March or the EPA or the national parks or science, or it really doesn't matter, LGBT communities, I think it's created a tighter bond within the community. And now we're sticking to our own groups, and and I just don't go to the LGBT walks. I go to the women walks, and I go to the science walks. And it really has created this opportunity for people to be active in their communities, not just socially, but politically. One of my friends and I went to meet a Muslim woman that's running for Congress here for the state of Arizona. And it was just this great gathering of people that are cheering her on. And it was really cool to see someone that's not male and white to run for Congress for this state. And so it creates, people need to be politically active, or at least understand what your civic duties are. It's also created stronger bonds within particular chunks of the community. So, LGBT people stand closer together, same with, women, or same with Muslims. It doesn't matter. So it has created that. So I would hope that it continues, and we not only stay within our little groups of, LGBT people, or, pro EPA people, or whatever, but we actually come together, all of us, into this bigger group that want what's best for the country and not what's best for the party. And that brings environmental issues and political issues and social issues. It's not just about making money and polluting the environment, or it's not a tantrum that women should make the same amount of money as men. It's not. There's a whole background of information behind it. And I think if we really, all of us, stand together, despite what we look like and where we came from, it would be, I think we could make great things happen, make America really great, not just the rich folks richer.
Right. What, if you were to be deported, and I know in theory you shouldn't be able to, but let's say something happens, you lose your papers and there's only one copy of them. What would life look like for you now in Mexico?
Well, that'd be scary. And what I'm going to tell you, please don't take any bias that, Mexico is full of crime, because it's not. Just like any other country in the world, there's places that you can go and there's places that you shouldn't go. And you're actually more likely to get shot in this country than you are in any other countries in the world. But if I were to go to Mexico, then I would probably not be able to have the lifestyle that I have, or support, the hobbies that I have here. I would probably be making a third of what I am making if I was lucky, especially in architecture and as a woman. I would probably have to go live with my parents, and that would not be nice, or I would have to have like 4 or 5 roommates, which I'm gladly out of that by now. But it's this: their pay is low. The acceptance towards the LGBT community is not quite there yet. It's still very much underground, especially if it's not Mexico City, if it's not the big cities, or Guadalajara. Anywhere else, it's really tricky. You really don't want to be out. There's a lot of crimes against women. And so, even though it's not as dangerous as people may think it is, it still is. It is more dangerous than other places, and that's just a reality. So between crime and lower paying jobs and quality of life, I would be probably extremely unhappy and probably depressed. I don't see myself going back ever, and that's a hard conversation to have when your family is back in Mexico. It's like, when are you coming back? Well, I'll come and visit, but I don't think I'll ever actually go back and live there. It's not what I would thrive for. It's not what I have worked for. Plus, I have a huge amount of student loans that I have to pay. So I would like to stay here and pay them, and be part of the productive society and just make it a little bit better.
So what ask do you have of the listeners? What would you, if you could ask the people who are listening to this today for them to think about or them to take action on, what would that be?
Well, one is to really get to know people. Just because someone is African American or Native American or Irish or Hispanic or Muslim, it doesn't mean that they are fill in the blank, whatever stereotype you have. There's more under that. And, we are wonderful people if you just give us a chance and you get to know us. So really understanding what that's about. And the same goes for the traditional white male that rules society right now. They're not all jerks. And if we really just give everyone a chance, I don't make jokes. I'd make a lot of jokes about myself being Hispanic, but I really don't make jokes about African Americans or Muslims because I don't know where that fine line of it's okay and not okay is. And so kind of respect each other, understand that we all have our own struggles and our own stories. And if we maybe understand more of our stories and let go of the stereotype, we can build better community. So if we can just knock on each other's doors and really get to know each other, we may find that we're stronger together than we are apart, and we may find more alternatives to create community. And that's not just from a social aspect, but from a landscape architecture aspect or from urban design aspect. This really builds community. So it is about getting involved politically, socially, environmentally with your community, and just getting to know each other. Because, Jose the gardener may know something that you don't. And there's no advantage to making fun of, Barron Trump. It really makes no difference. It doesn't make me a better person. But I think if you thrive for being better yourself and building better communities, then we can make America better or greater.
I love it. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the show. If you would like to comment on it, you can visit wholebeinginc.com/WBZ132. And certainly if you're seeing this on the social media, please feel free to leave a comment there. If it touched you, please share it. That is our goal, is to just spread these stories and to get you thinking a little differently about the people who are around you and the experiences that they're having. Infinite love and gratitude. Till next time, be whole.